Proud Boys trial continues. We learn there may be as many as 40 or more confidential human sources, informants, feds lurking around on January 6th. Now, yesterday, when we left off on the trial, it was day 50 and day 51, and there were some questions about what was going on. A lot of sealed proceedings taking place under the dark of night. Jordan Fisher, Jordan on the Record on Twitter, gave us an update. He said that the day before, on day 50, Proud Boy trial went under seal for several hours. And they're going to go back under seal again on day 51. Judge Kelly denied a motion from the press. Even the press was demanding to get access to this. They said, can we see this, please? You can't just close these proceedings without giving us any notice and then do it again. And the judge said, sorry, you're not getting access to this. It is going to remain closed. And so we were sitting here wondering, going, what the heck? Why is the hearing so sealed? Well, maybe it had to do with confidential human sources. Maybe there were a bunch of agents that the judge didn't want us to hear about. And we wake up the following morning on day 52, and guess what is fresh on the docket? We have a new motion filed by defendant Pizzola, alleging big issues with the case. Here's what it says. Defendant Dominic Pizzola submits a motion to compel disclosure of all confidential human sources of Homeland Security. Not the FBI, we're normally screaming about them. Different agency because there are so many of them. Now, this was 11 pages of filings submitted 4/5/23 out of the DC court, of course, the Proud Boys trial. Defense attorney Roger Roots is writing. He says, all right, everybody, comes now the defendant, Dominic, Proud Boy defendant, with a motion. We're asking the United States and the court to compel the prosecutors to reveal all informants, all undercover operatives, and all confidential human sources relating to the events of January 6th. Okay, all of them, every single one of them. Not related to this case only, but all of them. Informants, paid or not, undercover operatives, CHSs, all of these people are not officially FBI or DHS agents. They're not on the payroll as employees, but they're still there. And we've been following them along throughout this entire case. Defense attorney says that Pizzola recently learned, maybe in one of these sealed hearings, that a federal agency other than the FBI called the Homeland Security Investigations Unit, his, which I think is an illegal pronoun for the federal government. They're probably going to have to fix that. Call it they. Was handling and running undercover CHSs on January 6th. And there are many other intelligence agencies. We've joked about how many different police departments there are in Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill Police, MPD, the Mint has their own police department and all of these things. There's Smithsonian, right? History, Smithsonian Police and all this stuff. So they're all there, and we're asking how many were involved. The federal prosecutors in this case, says the defense, are refusing to disclose information about these non-FBI informants because they're from a different entity, DHS. The existence and the conduct of these CHSs is almost certainly exculpatory for my client called Dominic Pizzola. Remember in the Proud Boys claim, it's about a conspiracy that they were going to take over the country. They were going to insurrect America. And if there's dozens of informants all over the place, how could that happen? Why did they allow it to happen? Why couldn't they stop it? Why did it get as far as it did if there are more informants than there are Proud Boys who were insurrectionists? Here's the background. From the defense, they write, the United States government has tortuously avoided disclosing the full scale of undercover confidential human sources among the Proud Boys on January 6th. Government FBI witnesses first admitted that there was one confidential human source embedded among the Proud Boys on January 6th. Just one. It might have been one. And then there were two. Then there were three. Then the government stipulated on April 4th that we read here that there were 8 FBI confidential human sources among the Proud Boys. That's just one. That's just 2. Now 3. And we know that one of them, Kenny Luzardo, picked up Enrique Tarrio from jail in January 4th or 5th, the day before the so-called insurrection. We know that Jen Lowe was on payroll was getting paid by the FBI, and according to the defense, was showing up at legal meetings and in prayer groups. On Friday, March 31st, federal prosecutors pulled defense counsel aside. End of the week, things are coming to a close, and they disclosed there were even more additional undercover officers belonging to Metro PD among the defendants on January 6th. Now, I want to be very specific about this. We are continually referring to the Proud Boys in this case because the Proud Boys are the people who are on trial right now. 8 among the Proud Boys. That's how I'm reading it. It's 8 among the Proud Boys. I would imagine there's probably another 8 among the Oath Keepers, and probably another 8 among the 3 Percenters, and probably another 8, all throughout the various entities that were there. They say that Pizzola, after learning about FBI and Metro and the 1, 2, and 3, Pizzola has become aware that the largest numbers of undercover CHSs belong to agencies other than the FBI. We're all sitting here wondering about the FBI with their crayons playing Where's Waldo. But what about the other agencies? Defense says at least 2 law enforcement agencies each outnumbered the FBI teams in terms of running undercover agents, informants, and CHSs on January 6th. 2 agencies had more than the FBI. First, the Metro Police had at least 13 undercover plainclothes agents among the Proud Boys and other patriots on January 6th. 13. Next, there appear to have been some 19 confidential human sources belonging to an agency called HIS, Homeland Security Investigations. When added to the 8 FBI confidential human sources now admitted by the prosecutors, this means that you add them all up, we have at least 40 undercover informants or agents doing surveillance among the defendants, the Proud Boys, on January 6th. 40 among the defendants, the Proud Boys. Remember, there are 5 Proud Boys on trial. There are 40 undercover informants, Homeland Security, FBI, Metro Police, who knows who else, who are not being prosecuted. These are not FBI employees or agents. These are informants. These are people who are in the groups, hanging out with them, picking them up, taking them places. On Thursday, Pizzola filed a motion to serve witness Ray Epps. We read through that full filing here, if you missed that. Defendant contends that Mr. Epps is being suspiciously protected from prosecution by the government. You're kidding. Pizzola's motion included a paragraph addressing revelations by the J6 defendant, William Pope, in another case. Shout out to William Pope on Twitter, as I believe Free State Will. Shout out to William Pope. Says undercover Metro police officers were among the crowd on January 6th, instigating the crowd to storm the Capitol. Metro police officers were among the crowd, instigating the crowd, not just standing there observing, instigating. The following day, on Friday, March 31, in the middle of trial, federal prosecutors in this case pulled defense lawyers aside and revealed that the United States came across, we possess previously undisclosed information regarding the Metro PD officers working undercover on January 6th. In the middle of trial, near the end of trial. Okay, we are on trial day 52 on this thing. They just pop it out. Oh, hey, by the way, we're charging all 5 of your defendants with insurrecting America, with being a part of this massive conspiracy. And there are a bunch of MPD officers who are also instigating a lot of the other chaos that we're blaming your clients for. Specifically, there are previously undisclosed text messages between the undercover officers and Proud Boy supporters, which evidence very closely familial or intimate contact and relationships. Now, the information involved 12, now known to be 13, undercover or plainclothes officers from Metro amongst the demonstrators. Some of these undercover Metro officers marched with the Proud Boy March, and some appear to have played roles of instigators, and that they are seen on body-worn cameras. The police are shouting this. Go, go, go. Stop the thing. Whose house? Our house. Whose house? Our house. Metro PD doing that. Others generally follow demonstrators towards the Capitol. Now, Pizzola submits that the entire defense in this trial, including opening, cross, and defense, would have been very different and much more aggressive if the defense attorneys had known the scope and the scale of the undercover government operations. Prosecutors made arguments contrary to information they possessed and withheld, and defense counsel could have lodged different cross-examinations and different examinations if they had known about these materials. Here's one example. This newly disclosed information supports Proud Boy assessment of Antifa prior to J6. The defense says that undercover Metro officers are seen on videos and private text messages remarking on the dangerousness of violence of Antifa. The Proud Boys were there. They had been attacked. Somebody had been stabbed. Somebody had been hit in the head, I think, in another ordeal. Prior to these revelations, prosecutors had painted the Proud Boys' statements about Antifa as exaggerated. They're just making it up. There's no Antifa there. A prosecution witness even said that. Prosecutors repeatedly suggested through their witnesses, through their chats, their texts, and their posts that Antifa were not defensive, but were secret Proud Boy code for creating violence. Yes. When the Proud Boys are saying, oh no, we're here to fight back against Antifa, that's just secret code word insurrection language. We act in self-defense is translated to take the podium and seize the nuclear codes. That's what the government is alleging. Now, the government, they say, has withheld exculpatory information that might tend to show their innocence. With each bombshell, says the defense, the government generally begins its response to late disclosure complaints by saying the government was provided with the information, even if buried in the mountains of unnavigable discovery debris. They just throw it in there. But in this situation, the prior discovery dumps didn't provide all of the information. Buried in this discovery was a chart naming 12 Metro officers working for the unit on J6, but an additional 13th undercover Metro officer was revealed in recent revelations, and coincidentally, the 13th undercover officer appears to have been the most vociferous in promoting the storming of the Capitol. So the defense is saying, all right, look, Judge, we didn't know about these people. Well, we kind of did. We knew a little bit about some of them. There was one chart in a big bin of discovery they dumped on our desk. And remember, they've done this before. Earlier in this trial, the prosecutors were going to use like 3 pages of a report, and they sent over 3,500 pages. And then when the defense complained about it, they said, well, we thought you were going to ask for more, so we just gave you a ton. Right? They're being jerks. They're being cheaters, because that's largely what government does, is cheat, especially in J6 cases. And so here, they do disclose some people, but 12 are known officially. The 13th is disclosed late. They go through the 13th. That's the most aggressive person in the crowd. Weird how they left that 13th person out. So they say the material rebuts significant portions of other motive evidence that the government was permitted to present. We objected to that. They were still allowed to run with it. It confirms the reality of law enforcement concerns over Antifa. It provides percipient evidence that Antifa was engaged in the exact sort of violence that they're calling the Proud Boys responsible for. If counsel had this material in possession, we would have done different cross-examinations. And given the nature of this case, this material is exculpatory and relevant. Now, the defense continues. They write, we are entitled to know every single HSI human source who was there. The defense recently became aware that another agency called the Homeland Security Investigations Unit was also handling more CHSs on J6 than the FBI. The startling case of the J6 defendant, Jeremy Brown, brought the existence of these informants to light. In the days before J6, Homeland Security handlers visited Brown's residence, and they attempted to recruit Brown into becoming a paid source for HSI. Brown recorded the would-be handlers' attempt to recruit him. And in the video, the handlers, these two guys, Brett Lindsay and Paul Ura, indicated that they were making 19 additional stops that day. So they go over to Brown. Hey, you want to join us and become a Fed? He's recording the whole thing. He's like, wow, why are you coming to me? We're going to everybody today. We got 19 stops. It seems obvious, according to that the agents were planning on making similar recruitment contacts to get 19 other sources. Now, they say that, specific note here, it seems that the Justice Department is retaliating against Brown for refusing his offer. They charged him with crimes. He says, I'm not going to work with you losers. I'm not going to be a Fed for you. I'm not a snitch. Get out of here. They said, fine, we'll just charge you with crimes because we're the rotten government. Prosecutors in this case say they have no duty to provide this CHS from. Prosecutors say we don't have to give you anything from anybody else other than the FBI. Oh my gosh. So they asked for this. On April 4th, Assistant U.S. Attorney Ballantine responded to lawyer for the defense Roger Roots' email. Roger sends an email and says, hey, I'd like some more information about all of these sources. And the prosecutor responds. She says, a dear defense attorney Roots. Now, I don't know whether the name redacted or Oathkeeper Jeremy Brown are sources for another agency. She said, I don't know. I don't even know. But even if they were, I don't see how that fact would be relevant here. Homeland Security, and I'm not even sure specifically what that would be, is not the investigative agency in this case. So I understand the relevance of your CHS theory and that if there was a plan, then the FBI CHSs would have reported the existence of the plan, and they did not report a plan, and therefore there was no plan. But what is the relevance of this person's status as a source to another agency? Well, it's the same relevance there. Ballantine, if they didn't report it to the FBI that there was no insurrectionary plan, all 40 of them, no 40 of them reported there was a plan, we'd like to know if their other agencies also got those same reports. Well, what does it have to do with it? They didn't tell the FBI agents and handlers about it, so who cares what they told Homeland Security? What's the relevance? Roger says, of course, these proclamations violate the government's obligations under Brady and its progeny, saying you don't need it, they're not investigating this. Okay, well, we don't care. You don't have an obligation only to disclose exculpatory material from whatever cases you choose, from whatever agencies you choose. If it's within the power of the government, you've got an obligation to give that to us because we don't have the power of the government. We don't know as defendants, as innocent citizens with the presumption of innocence, what is going on. We can't see if there's HSI or Metro PD or Capitol Hill PD or FBI, all of them. We don't get to see it. So you've got an obligation to tell us this stuff. And if you're alleging there's a conspiracy, there's a common scheme or plan, all of these people are in cahoots to do this together, why didn't any of them report to any of their handlers that there was in fact a plan? And shouldn't we be allowed to present that evidence? But this prosecutor, I don't understand the relevance of it. Why is it appropriate? Now, Brady and its obligations do not extend to the entirety of the government. They do include any and all investigative agencies who worked on the case, related, who knew or who should have known that information would be material to a prosecution arriving from their direct involvement. If other federal agents were there on January 6th, all of those agencies should be absolutely relevant. It's the same event. The Capitol Police are directly related and fully aware of the events. Capitol Police is an agency of Congress. Capitol Police and Congress are two primary alleged victims, and the Capitol Police is the primary investigative agency in terms of immediacy and geographic proximity. Most of the witnesses and the investigators from the FBI have no firsthand knowledge of the events. They're merely reviewing reports. Here is the original email by Roger Roots. He says, hey, Jocelyn, Prosecutor Ballantine, We're still following up on this person. Who is this person? We have two witnesses who absolutely insist that Proud Boy Redacted made suspicious calls on January 6th. We want to know about this. The name called one individual named Brett by mistake, wrong number, and then made statements consistent with being a source awaiting instructions to engage activities at the Capitol. Whoa. Roger Root says, we have a witness who says somebody made a call. Looks like that person is a source awaiting instructions to engage in activities at the Capitol. Wait, what? They're waiting for the text message. It's execute order 66. Go. Note that the name Brett is shared by a Homeland Security agent who seemed to be running sources on January 6th. Weird. One person, agent named Brett, running sources, and phone calls are being made. Roger says, the case of Jeremy Brown in Tampa involves a Homeland Security agent named Brett. As you know, Homeland and the FBI went to Brown's house, and he refused to become a source. So this begs the question, even if this person was not an FBI source, was he Homeland Security source? Same question regarding Ray Epps. Was Ray Epps a Homeland Security source? We've been saying FBI, and they keep saying, no, he's not an FBI source. Was he a Homeland Security source? And is that how they're skipping over this whole thing? And of course, she responded, I don't see the relevance. What does it have to do with anything? Who cares if it's HSI? They're not related to this. FBI is in charge of this case, and it's their jurisdiction, and so stay out of it. Don't ask about other agencies. And he says, well, other agencies who were investigating this case and had agents there, they're kind of relevant to my case. Roger Roots, the defense, continues. The city of D.C. police had undercover officers on the scene of the Capitol in the early afternoon. They were on standby under memoranda of understanding to respond to the police. He says, plainly under Brady, the government prosecutors are obligated to give us the identities of them. Supreme Court said so. Brady material is exculpatory information material to a defendant's guilt, which the government knew about but failed to disclose to the defendant in time for trial. We're in the middle of trial. They knew about all of these sources, all 40 plus of them, and they didn't disclose them. Brady requires this disclosure, and they didn't do it. More case law here. We'll fast forward, all citing from Robinson and others. In conclusion, Root says the United States is refusing to provide information, which obviously has a high likelihood of being exculpatory. Under the most foundational principles of Brady, our defendants are entitled to this information. And so accordingly, our client Dominic asks for an order compelling the United States to give us the names, the identities, the reports of all the Homeland Security investigation CHSs operating at or near the Capitol around the Proud Boys on January 6th. Great motion, shocking motion. Roger Roots, Esquire, co-counsel for defendant Pizzola, sent this in April 5th. Maybe not that shocking at all. We've all suspected that there were dozens of feds. We might be getting into the hundreds of feds. We might get into triple digits of feds. If there were 40 people that the defense has been able to eyeball without the government even being transparent about it, this is just them picking them out of the wilderness, identifying them. The government hasn't even disclosed them. So maybe 40 times the Proud Boys, 40 times the Oath Keepers, another 40 times all of the other groups who were there. Fed-surrection, indeed. So this was the original motion. The government, of course, will respond to that. But the takeaway, at least 40 agents, 40 informants, 40 individuals who the government knew about, who were embedded with these so-called insurrectionists, none of whom ever reported that there was a common scheme or plan. There was never any conspiracy to take over the Capitol. 40 agents. Now, we've made a big stink here about how many charges there are, or how many lack of charges there are in the J6 cases. Kyle Cheney from Politico posted this one today. gave us a quick summary. Remember, 1,000 people were charged. Only 339 of those 1,000 were assaulting or impeding police, which is basically a joke charge. 107 of those were with a dangerous weapon. We've gone through the funnel of these numbers before. 107 charged with a dangerous weapon. Many of those dangerous weapons were water bottles and flagpoles and other things like that. So it's about 107, and we've got about 40 undercover CHSs who were there. You see those numbers? Now, 533 have pled guilty, 83 found guilty at trial, which means half the cases are closed and already sentenced. 453 have already been sentenced. So our whole useless Department of Justice is spending millions and billions of dollars and wasting all of these efforts for give or take about 500 open cases. A small percentage of those are actual violent or assault types of crimes. And as we know, a big portion of those cases, many of them being prosecuted, were probably inundated with feds, CHSs, and others everywhere. This whole thing is like a drop in the bucket. 1,000 charges for coming on 3 years of prosecutions is nuts. And half of them were feds. That is what's going on in the Proud Boys trial before we even start the day.